My name is Ryan Ellis. I'm the visual designer here at RhythmX, and my X number is 298. RhythmX's 2025 production is entitled Hands of the Creation. So the show this year is centered around Michelangelo and his adventure of painting the Sistine Chapel. The show begins specifically with the moment that we imagined of Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel, unpainted, looking at what we imagined to be one of the most intimidating blank canvases that anyone has ever looked at. And that led us to exploring what the possibilities were that could have been running through his mind. How much of that painting did he already see? How much of it was discovered through the process of painting? And we like to use that as the inspiration for the creative journey that we go on throughout our program.
My name is Tim Jackson. I'm the battery arranger and show designer for RhythmX, and my X number is 25. So the Sistine Chapel ceiling just stands on its own. It is a masterpiece, a work of art that needs no description and honestly just can't be described accurately or appropriately. You need to see it to believe it and to understand the talent that the artist had in creating it. At some point in the process, much like developing an indoor percussion show, the artwork starts to speak to you. You sort of silence your brain a little bit in the creative sense, and you realize that what you're cultivating with everybody involved in it has a life of its own, and that's what creates this ultimate experience.
Our show begins with our depiction of what the Sistine Chapel looks like unpainted. So the ensemble, the battery, is in a central mass on the floor looking up at the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Our prop structures are covered, and we do that for two reasons. One of which is that we were inspired by the thought process of seeing the Sistine Chapel covered in drop cloths. That was something that we thought was intriguing. One, for its relevance to painting. Two, because we're interested in the barrier that exists between the artist and the art that he has yet to create. And so what we do is we cover up these things that are going to come later in the show, because at that point in time they are unknown to Michelangelo and them.
We have this moment where we uncover one of our snare drummers in the middle, and he comes to life. He emerges from all of these drop cloths that are laid over him that would have been in the chapel when the painting is occurring. And as he comes to life, we sort of get a little bit of a taste of the very first string sound that we heard before his action inspires everybody to play for the very first time.
So the props are comprised of a couple different functions. The first of which is a ramp that leads us up to a stage that performers are able to be elevated on. We wanted to be able to create a place where we could reveal a multitude of hands that are revealed throughout the show. So there's two layers of curtains that allow us to put performers behind there. We can reveal whatever parts of them we want to in whatever way we want to. And obviously there's a lot of emphasis on the hands because of the show concept. The perimeter of the prop is the exact trim that exists on the Sistine Chapel. So we tried to make this as literal of a depiction as we could to pay homage to what exists on there.
There's always something unique on the inside of them. There's always some sort of new, fun thing that's about to emerge from this prop every time that you see it. Something that was behind the curtain that wasn't there before and is now taking the stage. And that introduction of ideas has created a really cool way for us to highlight different sections of the group, as well as create a lot of different moods, creating a mood of surprise or one of mystery.
For the costuming, it was really important to us that we were able to pull some sort of literal depiction of what we're doing without making the costume overly a period piece. We didn't want to look like the historical representation of Michelangelo, but we did want to be true to what he was doing. And so there are elements of the costuming that pull from what we imagine Michelangelo's creative process being. One of those things is the depiction of splattered paint. So we wanted the costume to be able to pick up the fact that through his journey of painting the chapel, it likely got messy. And so we wanted to be able to showcase that in a multitude of different ways. We also depict the hands from the creation of Adam very literally on his back. One, it was really important to us that we were able to see that depiction literally. But two, we also wanted to make sure it was in a place where it remained unbeknownst to the person wearing it, which is why we put it on the back. This is an idea that he is yet to have. This is the culmination of what this chapel is going to become.
I love the part of the show where we highlight our hands in these colored gloves that are stretching through the black fabric in the props. And everything that they're doing is choreographed to the musical soundtrack that you're hearing at the time, and it's sort of an influence to the way that we're moving on the floor, and has some direct correlation to that. We also just utilize hand motions and hand choreography in a lot of ways that we just as an ensemble haven't done before. We wanted to experience and experiment with more variety for hand gestures, shapes, formations, movements, things that would be a surprising utilization of hands, a surprising presence of them, because there's so much intricacy and beauty in hands themselves, and obviously they are responsible for creating what it is that we create. We use our hands to create the sounds that we make.
We thought about what would it look like if the entirety of our production happened in the palm of Michelangelo's hand. So on the floor, you're going to see a hand, and that hand is also depicted on the Sistine Chapel, and this also justifies why our props are where they are. So we wanted to be able to tie in the literal depiction of the Sistine Chapel with the metaphorical depiction of Michelangelo's hand. And so what we did is we took our 5 prop structures that are directly pulled from the chapel, and we put them on the tips of Michelangelo's fingers, as though those things are what he's directly in control of.
Indoor drumline is not creating music and movement, it's creating a unique once-in-a-lifetime experience. And you can think of that in a myriad of ways. You can think of it as the experience that the membership or the staff has from the beginning of the season to the end of it, all of the friendships that are formed and the memories that are created. We also wanted to represent how an idea comes to life. And in my mind, it was always that an idea is usually referred to as something small that then develops into something much bigger. And so we tried to, throughout the course of the program, utilize very small elements, whether that's an egg shaker that starts with one person and then everybody in the ensemble has one.
So the culmination of the show intentionally does not exist as literally as a lot of other shows that we've tackled in the past. One thing we were really intentional about is we wanted to make sure that the audience, when they viewed this production, felt as curious as they possibly could. We wanted to provide as many questions as we did answers. And so this show tackles both the literal journey of the painting of the Sistine Chapel and Michelangelo's process through that, as well as the narrative journey of what that means to this organization this year and this production, because this is not the Sistine Chapel and we are not Michelangelo, but we are using all of those things as inspiration to be able to create something that hopefully the world has never seen before. So at the culmination of this production, our expectation is not only that we see the coming to fruition of the Sistine Chapel, but that we've also culminated a new piece of art that until that point did not exist, which was the Rhythm X 2025 production.
At some point in this process, year after year, we go through a cycle where we just have to be done. We have to stop creating, and our performance, our creation it's over. At some point, Michelangelo knew he would have to be done. He would have to make his final brush stroke on the ceiling. And I can't imagine what it must have been like to stand back from his creation and look upward toward it after that final brushstroke and see not just the beauty in that moment of what he had created, but also to instantly be reminded of everything that it took over those 4 years to create it.